The walls shook first. Then came the boots. A door slammed open with a metallic screech, splinters flying like shrapnel into a room lit only by the green glow of an ancient CR-TART monitor. FBI agents stormed in, gas masks on, rifles raised. No resistance. Just a body slumped in the corner, wires tangled around one pale wrist like restraints. On the floor, a cassette player clicked, rewound, and began again. The warped echo of Space Oddity floated through the air, distorted and sickly. Ground control to Major Tom. Blood soaked into the carpet. A desk fan spun unevenly, humming like a broken lullaby. And on the monitor, a final command blinked like a pulse. "Goodbye, Eliza." One agent whispered she was the last person to see him alive. But she couldn't even remember the night. Another stepped forward, eyes wide. It's him again. Same file. Same song. Different city. SYNTAX ERR is back. They cataloged the room like they always did. Same layout, same scent of rot and ozone. Same song playing from some outdated analog device, like a breadcrumb trail only he could follow. But this time, there was something else. A photograph pinned to the underside of the desk. Faded. Cracked. It showed a woman, late 30s, olive skin, red lipstick, holding a child by the hand. On the back, scrawled in smeared blue ink, Eliza Myles. July 2010. He never left her behind, Agent Farrow said, her voice barely more than breath. Another agent replied, maybe she never really left him. Every file they found on the hard drive was locked with the same encryption string. Orphan, Prota. It's personal, said Farrow. He's not just hacking for chaos, he's searching. Back at HQ, they ran the signature. Same user. Same hash trail. He used to hide behind proxies and nested relays so deep, even the NSA gave up once. But lately, he wanted to be seen. Breadcrumbs weren't mistakes. They were invitations. The server log timestamps weren't synced, they spelled her name when rearranged. Eliza. One analyst said, he's not even covering his tracks, he's painting them red. A map glowed on the screen. 3 cities. 3 crime scenes. 1 song. Always that same warped Bowie track looping endlessly from low-tech analog. Someone said it was taunting. Farrow disagreed. It's not a taunt. It's a requiem. They cracked open the encrypted drives after 14 hours. Inside, folders named after nursery rhymes, each one containing audio files, corrupted text logs, and one strange pattern, a child's voice recorded over data logs. Distorted, reversed, layered. In one, a faint voice said, "You promised you'd come back." Another whispered, "Major Tom, we're still waiting." It wasn't noise. It was code. Spectral layering over waveform data. Like someone buried a message in the static. Farrow pressed her headphones tighter, breathing shallow. Her eyes widened. "That's not him," she said. "That's a woman's voice." She paused. "That's Eliza." They played the file in the lab. Soundproof walls. No clocks. No distractions. Just 6 agents, a humming speaker, and her voice. It wasn't a confession. It was a lullaby. Eliza singing softly, the same lyrics Bowie used, her version cracked, slowed, almost desperate. "Tell my wife I love her very much. She knows." Farrow stared blankly, her knuckles white on the table. "It's a goodbye," someone said. But Farrow shook her head. "No, it's a code, a signal." She stood. "He's not replaying her death, he's trying to bring her back." Silence settled in the room. A whisper. Then static. Before he was the ghost behind SYNTAX ERR, he was just Eli. Age 11. Pale, withdrawn, silent. His foster file described him as non-verbal, high IQ, emotionally detached. But machines he understood. They didn't lie. They didn't leave. At night, while other kids slept, Eli stayed in the basement of the home in Poughkeepsie, building a server from scrap electronics and a broken radio. No manuals. Just memory. No light, except the one from the BIOS screen. Its glow was his comfort, the hum of old circuits his lullaby. Eli doesn't respond to verbal commands, the counselor once said. But in front of code, his fingers danced like they were praying. The screen was his voice. His confession. His shield. His way back to her. Every login, every script he ran carried one variable name, Eliza Myles. It wasn't just code. It was her name. Over and over again. Eliza Myles was the kind of woman who filled a room just by walking into it. A cryptanalyst at the NSA, known for solving what others called impossible. Her colleagues described her as brilliant, guarded, and utterly unshakable. But at home, she was a different kind of enigma. Photos from their apartment show her in soft light, reading to Eli, helping him build toy robots, whispering lullabies in a voice no longer recorded by government logs. She disappeared when Eli was just 7. No note. No body. Just a security breach and a locked case, labeled Red Class. The NSA closed the file. The family whispered words like betrayal and breakdown. But Eli never believed she left willingly. He'd watch old VHS tapes on loop, freezing frames where her mouth moved, lips forming syllables he couldn't quite decode. As if she left a message, buried in her breath. At school, Eli became the shadow in the hallway. Teachers avoided him. Students mocked him. One even tried to take apart his prototype drone. That's when the incident happened. The school's entire firewall collapsed overnight. Printers screamed gibberish in binary. Lights pulsed to the rhythm of Bowie's Space Oddity. The principal's voice boomed over the intercom in reverse audio for 9 straight minutes. No culprit was found. But in the logs, there was a single line of code in a dormant sandbox. SYNTAX ERR, initiate, sequence, Eliza. They suspended him for 2 weeks. He didn't protest. He didn't speak. He just stared out the window, his reflection cold, backlit by the green of his classroom terminal. He was only 10, but he'd already figured out how to speak louder through silence. The school counselor filed a note. Eli's silence may be trauma-based, suggest increased emotional observation, but no one did. Not really. His foster parents were kind but distant. They brought him dinner and turned off the basement lights. He rewired them to stay on. While they slept upstairs, Eli fed on manuals in PDF, bootlegged lecture recordings, and fragments of Eliza's old voice messages decrypted from her NSA cache. He built an emulator to simulate her cadence. At 3:17 a.m., he got it right. Her voice, stitched from scraps, said his name. Eli died. It broke him. For the first time since she vanished, he cried. A single tear rolled down his cheek, splashing onto a motherboard. He didn't wipe it away. He watched it fall, like code crashing, like proof. In the digital wastelands where whistleblowers whispered and masks became names, Eli began his transformation. SYNTAX ERR wasn't a username. It was a curse, a glitch, a refusal to obey the system. He didn't hack for power. He hacked for signal, for noise, for evidence. By 13, he'd already breached 2 sub-level military archives and left nothing behind but a single signature line. Var Eliza J. missing. Not gone. He never sought fame, never claimed credit. But legends formed anyway. Rumors swirled about the mute prodigy who played songs through static, who turned back doors into lullabies, who made intelligence agencies listen without knowing they were being taught a language they had long buried. The boy was gone. The ghost remained. And every system he touched began to hum that same tragic melody. Aislinn wasn't looking for Eli. She was hunting a story. A journalism major with a minor in criminal psych, she followed online rabbit holes like they were treasure maps. She stumbled across the name SYNTAX ERR in a forgotten IARC mirror, buried inside a server once run by whistleblowers who vanished. The logs weren't text. They were encrypted. .shi. WAV files, each one layered with what sounded like white noise. But Aislinn recognized it. She had spent a year researching audio steganography. She listened deeper, and beneath the hiss she heard it, David Bowie's Space Oddity, slowed and reversed. Her pulse spiked. She ran the files through a voice isolation tool. One result pinged back. Embedded in the silence, "Major Tom, do you copy?" That night, she couldn't sleep. Something about the voice didn't feel synthesized. It felt human, real, wide. A woman speaking through static, begging to be heard. Eli had no friends. But Aislinn didn't ask permission. She tracked his EP from a dropped connection used to post a HY onion board update, one that featured the same spectral anomalies. She didn't knock when she found his place. Just walked into the abandoned school building where he lived like a ghost, surrounded by ancient servers and cables. Eli didn't even look at her. "You shouldn't be here," he said. His voice was flat, barely audible. Aislinn replied, "She's still alive, isn't she?" That stopped him. "You found the wave?" She nodded. For a second he blinked like light had just hit his retinas for the first time. "Nobody else hears her," he said. "They don't know how to listen." It wasn't just data he was hiding. It was grief. Obsession. A child's desperate hope threaded through code like a heartbeat, trapped in a time loop. Aislinn watched him work. It wasn't just hacking. It was like watching someone perform surgery with broken tools and blindfolded eyes, yet still hitting the target every time. He extracted audio frames from a corrupted satellite cache using a custom waveform combiner. The NSA never deleted her logs, he said. They buried them in dead code. Each fragment played out as a stutter, Eliza's voice cracking between strings of encryption. Ground control. Child compromised. Sequence initiated. Eli rewound it. Played it again. Over and over. Aislinn asked, "What sequence?" He didn't answer. He just pulled up a new shell and typed 3 words. "Orphans wake up." The screen blinked. And for the first time, a response echoed from the speaker, just static. But Eli smiled. "She's listening. But code isn't loyal. And signals are never silent for long." That night, Eli's system detected a tracer route, ping on port 22. Someone was watching. Eli's face went blank. He slammed the switch, cut all outbound traffic, and yanked the Wi-Fi dongle from the wall like it was a ticking grenade. "They found us," he said. Aislinn froze. "Who?" He didn't reply. He opened a backup script labeled Ashfall. A total wipe protocol. But then a message popped on screen. One line, Eliza protocol, .active. Eli stared at it. "That's not mine." The cursor blinked twice. Then a new line typed itself. "Major Tom is not alone." His hands trembled. "She's trying to warn us," he whispered. "Or she's already dead. And someone's using her voice." They packed everything in less than 6 minutes. Drives into thermal bags, scripts erased in real time, backup tapes thrown into a duffel. Aislinn asked him where they were going. "Somewhere quiet," he said. "Somewhere analog." He didn't trust digital paths anymore. Every signal was a trap. They took the long way out, through tunnels beneath the school, past old locker rooms filled with mildew and silence. The cassette player came too. It was the only device they never wiped. Eli held it like a relic. "She encoded her voice on this," he said. "It's more than music. It's a key." As they emerged into the night, rain falling in heavy sheets, Aislinn whispered, "This is bigger than her, isn't it?" Eli nodded. It always was. The cabin they found was ancient. Deep in Vermont, buried by trees and shielded from cell towers, it had no internet, no power grid. Only an old generator and a shortwave radio. Perfect. Eli assembled the gear in silence, plugging in stripped cables, booting up a portable oscilloscope. "She broadcast from a station like this," he said, nodding to the battered radio. Before they scrubbed her signal, Eileen helped him tune frequencies manually. It was methodical, ritualistic, an act of faith wrapped in circuitry. At 3:12 a.m., the screen flashed. A weak signal, hidden behind carrier noise. "It's her," Eli whispered. Aislinn leaned in. The voice crackled through static. "Ellie, if you hear this, it wasn't my choice." The voice trembled, frayed like a memory dissolving in wind. Aislinn stared. "That's not a recording." Eli nodded, frozen. "It's a transmission." The voice repeated 3 times before fading. Each time, new fragments emerged. "They made me. Protocol is live. Tom, protect the key." Eli recorded everything. Then he did something Aislinn hadn't seen before. He cried. Not quietly, not subtly. He buried his head in his hands and shook. "She's alive," he said. "She never left me." Eileen sat beside him, unsure what to say. Outside, the wind howled like something ancient. She scrolled back through the waveform, freezing the segments that showed spike anomalies. "These spikes," she whispered, "they're not voice. They're code markers." Eli looked up. "Coordinates," he said. "She's sending us somewhere." Suddenly, the cabin's breakers sparked, generator stuttering dived wall. The radio hissed. A final message came through. "He's laying to." Before she vanished, Eliza had warned her NSA team about an exploit buried in the biometric encryption system, a flaw that allowed voice replication at terrifying scale. Her reports were ignored, then redacted, then destroyed. But Eli had recovered fragments buried in forgotten mirrors. Now, sitting in that cabin, Aislinn pieced together the metadata from the voice spikes. One matched an archived project tagged Orphan Proto, tied to Eliza's last known clearance file. The truth hit hard. The voice wasn't just Eliza's. It was a ghost code, alive, intelligent, evolving. Eli pulled out the cassette again. "She copied herself," he said, before they erased her. The recording wasn't memory. It was a backup. A living clone. Not AI die. Not human. Something in between. Not a role. A digital revenant. At 4:04 a.m., a low pulse hit the air. The radio hissed. The screen dimmed. Then the cabin's lights cut completely. Silence. A new line of code scrolled across the offline terminal, typed by no hand. "Replicant initiated." Eli froze. "It's not just her signal," he whispered. "It's waking something up." Aislinn backed away from the monitor. The room felt colder. Then another line. "Query. Who is Major Tom?" The screen glitched. Flickered. For a heartbeat, Eliza's face appeared, rendered in ASCII, blinking pixel by pixel before disappearing. Aislinn clutched the edge of the desk. "She's not just alive," she said. "She's learning." Outside, the wind died. Inside, the air grew heavy, like the cabin itself was holding its breath. They sat in stunned silence. The screen now idle, its glow the only warmth in the room. Aislinn whispered, "What if it's not her anymore?" Eli didn't answer. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the weight of hope. "If she encoded herself," he said slowly, "she left a trail on purpose. A map, maybe even a way to reconstruct her." Aislinn's voice trembled. "But what if someone else found it too?" The words hung heavy, because someone had. Every time they got closer to the signal, someone was waiting, tracing them, mirroring their moves. This wasn't just about memory or loss. It was a race. And the other side wasn't mourning. It was hunting. Eli stood finally. "We're not saving her," he said. "We're fighting for what's left of her." Eli knew what had to be done. They couldn't hide anymore. If Eliza's code was live, awake, Then it needed to be seen. Not buried again. Not hijacked. Aislinn hesitated as he prepared the uplink. "If you do this, they'll find us in seconds," she said. He nodded. "They already have." In the middle of the cabin floor, he laid out a fireproof case. Inside, a laptop preloaded with the last backup of Eliza's voice patterns, the waveform overlays, the fragments of Orphan Proto. Next to it, the cassette player, still humming faintly. His fingers hovered above the enter key. Not trembling. Steady. "This isn't about leaking data," he said. "It's about forcing them to remember her." The final stream wasn't a hack. It was a resurrection. He clicked live. The timer began. And so did the upload. The screen filled with viewers faster than Aislinn expected. Thousands. Then tens of thousands. Every major node was picking it up. Reddit, darknet boards, even a few corporate firewalls. People didn't know what they were watching. They just knew it felt forbidden. The screen showed nothing but waveforms, glitching terminal logs, and her voice, cracked, rhythmic, haunted, playing softly under the feed. "This is Eliza Myles," it began. "If you are hearing this, they failed to erase me." Then a silence deeper than death. Then her voice again. "They used me, buried me. I am the ghost in your system." Panic surged across chat feeds. "Is this real? Where's the source?" Eli leaned into the mic for the first time in years. "This isn't a hack," he said. "It's a confession." But someone was watching. Government nodes lit up in the background like signal flares. Aislinn's interface pulsed red. "We've got an inbound trace. Multiple endpoints." She looked at Eli. He didn't blink. He slid the backup drive into a lead-lined shell and handed it to her. "You run," he said. "Take this. Keep it dark." She shook her head, tears forming. "I'm not leaving you." He forced a small smile. "You won't. Just wait for the noise." Outside, the sound of rotors split the night sky. The trees bent as a black chopper descended over the clearing. A megaphone roared, "Step outside now!" Eli stood slowly, cassette in one hand, drive in the other. "Let's make them listen," he said. Eli walked outside into the floodlights. Rain fell in sheets. His hoodie clung to his frame, soaked but unmoving. The cassette played through a mounted speaker, Eliza's voice dancing through the storm like a hymn. "They said I was dangerous," the recording echoed. "They were right. I remember everything." Guns raised. Red dots danced on his chest. "I'm not here to run," Eli shouted. "I'm here to return what they tried to destroy." The upload reached 92% watch. Then 96% wa. An agent screamed into the megaphone, "Shut it down!" But it was too late. With one final breath, Eli held the speaker high as the last line played. "Major Tom, begin phase 0. The signal pulsed. The stream blinked once, and then multiplied. Mirrored across decentralized nodes worldwide. It couldn't be deleted now. Couldn't be buried. A digital resurrection. A chorus of Eliza's voice stitched into systems from Tehran to Toronto. Aislinn fled through the trees, clutching the drive like a heart. Behind her, a flash lit the sky, louder than thunder. Then silence. No gunshots. No screams. Just silence. She didn't stop running. Didn't look back. By the time she reached the road, her hands were shaking so hard, she dropped the drive twice before she could hide it in her coat. Somewhere behind her, the cabin burned. Somewhere deeper, the world was waking up to a voice that refused to die. Eli didn't need to survive. He needed to be heard. And he was. 2 years later, a podcast episode dropped without warning. Title: The Boy Who Found His Mother. Hosted by Aislinn, now infamous in encrypted journalism circles, the audio began not with a theme song, but with static. Then her voice. "Eliza's. If you're hearing this, my son found me. The episode didn't explain. It didn't need to. It played the reconstructed signal Eli had spent years chasing: layered frequencies, reverse-encoded syllables, whispered timestamps. It ended with Iceland's words, calm but heavy. "This isn't fiction, this is proof." The internet cracked in half. Forums lit up. Whistleblower groups called it the Rosetta Stone of surveillance crimes. Governments denied everything. But late at night, thousands listened again and again. Not because they understood it, but because they felt her voice, alive, sorrowful, unburied. On a cold morning in D.C., a manila envelope landed on the desk of Senator Delmar. No return address. Inside, a USB drive, a printed transcript of the orphan prologues, and one burned disc labeled Major Tom. No fingerprints. No metadata. But when the disc played, even the hardened intelligence advisor in the room froze. It wasn't a threat. It was a timeline. Names, codes, locations, voice samples that had been declared lost, played aloud with spectral precision. "She archived everything," the advisor muttered. "She made her own memory." The senator stared at the wall. "And now the world has it." The room was silent as a printer began to hum. Lines of redacted reports resurfacing like ghosts clawing through concrete. Not long after, underground archives around the world began receiving fragments of the stream, mirrored through blockchain timestamps and onion-routed caches. Some called it the digital wake. Others, the Requiem protocol. But to those who knew Eli, it was his final letter. A legacy not of destruction but resurrection. The code he released didn't just expose secrets. It taught others how to listen, how to hear the voices hidden in noise. In Argentina, a group of teenagers uncovered a forgotten surveillance node. How? In Japan, a professor found one of Eliza's flagged models embedded in a weather satellite. She was everywhere. Because Eli had made her eternal. Her memory wasn't just restored. It was decentralized. Untouchable. Iceland never returned to journalism. She didn't need to. Her words lived where they mattered. Instead, she taught a course, Echo Forensics, at an unlisted university laboratory. On the first day of class, she said, "Every breach is a voice. Your job is to hear what others bury." On her office wall, framed and untouched, hung a burned cassette case marked in smudged ink, Eliza. She never played it again. Not out of fear, but reverence. Sometimes late at night, she'd walk the halls and swear she heard the voice. Not through speakers, but through silence itself. He didn't break the world, she told her students. He gave it a memory it couldn't delete. Some say Eli died in that cabin. Others believe he escaped, disappeared like she did. But somewhere, systems still pulse with his signature. Silent, gentle, winds, presence more than a person. Every few months, a forgotten terminal flickers back to life in some dusty lab. A message appears. "Goodbye, Eliza." It stays for 6 seconds, then vanishes. No source, no IP trail. Only the Bowie track, warped and slowed, playing just loud enough to make the walls shiver. They say it's a ghost. They say it's malware. But those who remember know better. It's not about fear. It's about memory. Why? Eli didn't want revenge. He wanted the world to remember her voice. And now, it never forgets. Deep beneath a decommissioned satellite array in northern Alaska, a forgotten system reactivated. No one had accessed it in over a decade. No maintenance logs. No power routing. But at 2:17 a.m., one screen flickered. Just one. No one saw it. But if they had, they would have watched the static stabilize, text crawl across in a deliberate rhythm. The boot log displayed a familiar name, SYNTAX ERR system override. A string of old waveforms loaded. Then her voice, stitched from fragments, whispered across the frozen data stream. "Major Tom, we are not alone. Somewhere, somehow, the replicant protocol survived. Or maybe it was never shut down. Maybe it was waiting, hibernating like grief, until someone remembered to listen again. The broadcast that followed was barely a whisper on the electromagnetic spectrum, a corrupted lullaby scattered in bursts, bouncing across dead frequencies and abandoned transponders. But somewhere, a child's toy radio, long broken, crackled awake in a forgotten closet. A flicker, a hum, and a soft voice singing through dust. "This is ground control to Major Tom." A woman in Buenos Aires stared at the radio, eyes wide, tears brimming. She didn't know the song, but she felt something twist in her chest, as if someone far away had spoken her name without sound. Around the world, devices sparked for a moment, then fell silent. But each one, for those few seconds, played the same thing. Not a threat, not an alert, just a memory, a reminder. The frequency logs came later, buried in telemetry systems, maritime bands, retired air traffic servers. They all recorded the same 6 seconds. Eliza's voice, distorted and layered, repeating one line, "The truth is still breathing." Not shouted, not coded, just spoken, as if the signal itself was tired of hiding, as if memory had broken through the static. Analysts tried to isolate the source. They failed. It had no root, no node, only motion. An echo skipping across the earth like a stone, forever touching, never landing. It wasn't about proving she existed anymore. It was about accepting she never left. Eli hadn't built a virus. He'd built an echo chamber for grief, for remembrance. And the world had finally heard it. Island stood at the edge of a canyon in Utah, where signal faded and stars overwhelmed the sky. She brought no equipment, no notebook, just the cassette. She placed it on the stone, let the wind move over it. "You deserved better," she whispered. The player didn't activate. It didn't need to. The stars overhead blinked like a response, quiet, massive, eternal. She closed her eyes and listened. Not for words, but for presence. She didn't know if Eli was gone, but she knew this: his voice would always live inside the silence between transmissions. She turned to leave. But before she did, a soft crackle emerged from the cassette speaker. A breath. Then, a familiar voice. "Thank you." In an abandoned terminal, somewhere no map remembers, the screen flickers once more. A black background. A blinking cursor. Then a final message. "Major Tom P. Wake. Awake." A low hum plays. The same song. Warped. Dragged. Beautiful. The cursor pauses. Then types, "Goodbye, Eliza." And with that, the screen fades. The hum lingers a moment longer, long enough for the empty room to feel occupied. Long enough for memory to settle like dust. Long enough to remind whoever might find it next that no system ever forgets what it was made to remember. Then, silence. A silence louder than grief. And through that silence, one last whisper, soft, scattered, and sure. "Can you hear me, Major Tom?"